What's good, people? Uncle Hotep back at it again. How y'all doing? Feds are fed up, man. They're fed up. Sessions and the boys, they're coming in after the D-rays. I can't. Thank God. Anyway, the FBI terrorism unit says black identity extremists pose violent threat. There was a leaked report citing concerns of retaliation over perceptions of police brutality against African Americans, prompts fears of a crackdown on activists. The U.S. government has declared black identity extremists a violent threat, according to a leaked report from the FBI's counterterrorism division. The assessment, obtained by Foreign Policy, has raised fears about federal authorities racially profiling activists and aggressively prosecuting civil rights protesters. The report, dated August 2017 and compiled by Domestic Terrorism Analyst Unit, the FBI assesses it is very likely black identity extremists' perceptions of police brutality against African Americans spurred an increase in premeditation and retaliatory lethal violence against law enforcement, and will very likely serve as a justification for such violence. Incidents of alleged police abuse have continued to feed the resurgence in ideological motivated violent criminal activity within the black identity extremist movement. The FBI dedicated surveillance of black activists follows a long history of U.S. government aggressively monitoring protest movements and working to disrupt civil rights groups. But the scrutiny of African Americans by a domestic terrorism unit was particularly alarming to some free speech campaigners. When we talk about enemies of the state and terrorists, with that comes an automatic stripping of these people's rights to speak and protest. Mohammed Tajil, staff attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union, it marginalized what are legitimate voices when the political debate are calling for racial and economic justice. What is economic justice, man? There's no economic justice in America. It's up to the individual to make their own money. This is what America is about. My dad told me a long time ago. America is only about screwing somebody else out of their money. Now, I mean, not you might look at screwing as a bad term, but you're either providing goods to somebody to get some money, or you're not. That's all America is about, is getting money. 50 Cent told y'all, get rich or die trying. There's no such thing as this economic inequality or this, that, and the third. No, get your black asses up and get that paper. That's all you have to do. That's what America is about. Either you got the hustle in you or you don't. It's not about this socialism movement. It's not about these commies. It's the exact opposite. So there's always going to be the haves and the have-nots. Your purpose in America is to become one of the haves and not be a have-not. It's just that simple. My goodness gracious, I'm tired of reading this. The document has emerged at a time of growing concern about Donald Trump's links to the far right and white nationalists, and increased anxieties about his administration's efforts to further criminalize communities of color and shield police from scrutiny. Anti-Trump protesters and Black Lives Matter activists have continued to face harsh prosecutions and close federal monitoring. Well, if y'all wouldn't take that George Soros money, I mean, you wouldn't get monitored. Instead of working with your community, you're working against your community. You know, it's that simple. Like, I'm tired of, they will have you believe as a black person in America, your worst fear is your worst threat is you're going to get shot by the police. That's not, the numbers don't support that. You're more likely to get shot by one of your own than the police. You know what I mean? This is the media, because the media pumps up these stories. Like, if you just watch the media, you'll turn to believe, oh man, they're killing black folks left and right, man. It's a genocide. There's no genocide by the police of African Americans, black Americans, the Akatas, the Shines. But if you watch the fake news and you get everything from the fake news, that's what you'll think. That's what you'll think. This is from the Guardian. I'm sorry, I'm getting it from the Guardian, but excuse me. The FBI did not immediately respond to the Guardian's request for comment on that Friday, but defending its tracking of black identity extremists in a statement, Foreign Policy claimed the FBI cannot initiate an investigation based solely on an individual's race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, or the exercise of First Amendment rights. The FBI's report noted specific cases of recent violence against police, most notably Ma'Khad Johnson, a 25-year-old shooter in Dallas who killed 5 officers, and said he was targeting white people in law enforcement. Black Lives Matter, a movement protesting disproportionate killings of black citizens by police in the United States, had no ties to Johnson or other target killings of police, and has condemned those shootings. But see, first of all, I think Ma'Khad Johnson was an agent of some sort. That was a definite false flag. You don't learn those military maneuvers watching playing Call of Duty. That's what they would have you believe. He played Call of Duty. If you if you remember that one time in Dallas when he this was the illest move I ever seen. He saw the cop over here, and there was a pillar between them. He faked going this way, came around, and the cop bit for the fake and went that way. Came around, was like, it was the illest move I ever seen. As like it would like right off the movies. You know what I mean? His training was out superb. You know what I mean? So I think he definitely wasn't just some regular Joe Schmo. You know what I mean? There's so many. They got so many agents. I've said it's Treadstone. You know what I mean? And here they go falling for it. I mean, that's what governments do. One agency is tracking the other agency's agents and stuff like this. All this bullshit. But this rhetoric that Black Lives Matter puts out there, it causes people to say, "Oh, they're cornered by police." And what does a cornered animal do? It attacks. You know what I mean? You guys are falling for the trap. That's why you shouldn't even mess with Black Lives Matter, because you got to see who is funding them. They're just sitting there pitting y'all against each other. The number of police officers killed on the job also remains a fraction of the number of citizens killed by officers each year. Of course it does. It should be. And statistics suggest that more white offenders than black offenders kill officers. Which is also true. The FBI reports it, but if you look at the media, it portrays it a different way. You see what I'm saying? Even the media will portray, oh, them niggas is out here trying to kill these good police officers. You know what I'm saying? They don't. If it was, you know what I'm saying? They don't even do it. They don't even report it if it was a white offender and a white police officer. They won't report it. They won't report it. They'll report it. They won't report this as much if they got that good old black versus white dynamic. And anytime they can play that white versus black dynamic, black versus white dynamic. Sorry, they'll play it up, and this is what it is. The FBI report said black identity extremist violence peaked in the 60s and 70s in response to changing socioeconomic attitudes and treatments of blacks, adding the possible indicators today for BIEs posing a violent threat to law enforcement, including violent anti-white rhetoric and attempts to acquire illegal weapons or explosives. BIE appears to be a very new term within the law enforcement foreign policy noted. Elsa Waith, a comedian and activist. Jesus. Is this who they're getting? Comedian and activist? Said she feared Like the FBI's classification could deter people from joining protests and further criminalize anyone who's already in the movement. She noted that she often wears a black power button and could easily see the FBI labeling her as a threat as a result. Oh my gosh. The term black identity extremist is so vague on purpose. If I wanted to do a picnic for black people, this is how some sort of terrorist activity. But law enforcement threats would not discourage her. This changes nothing. For some people, this means we fight harder. You're falling for the trap again, man. Niggas stay fighting for the trap, man. Some reports have suggested that the Trump administration has pushed to focus on counterterrorism efforts solely on Islamist extremism and no longer target white supremacist groups. The president further faced significant backlash in August, saying there are very fine people on both sides of a neo-Nazi rally where a civil rights activist was killed by a alleged white nationalist. And this is what the media has so successfully framed that. The rally was for the Robert E. Lee statue. You know, these alt-righters came in and bogarted that. They were talking about removing the statue. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about the groups that was trying to standing for removing the statue. Not these neo-Nazis, shines, agents. like I mean, I don't know hardly there's any neo-Nazis, but apparently maybe there is. But I'll say this, if there are, and they're worried about black people, then I don't know what Nazi. They're not really Nazi to me. I think, you know, I mean, Hitler worked with African troops in Africa. You know what I mean? This, if you believe this meme about, he wanted to exterminate all these other races and all this other crap, man. And I mean, you're just lost in the sauce, man. You don't know what's going on. I hate to tell you. But you're being a Hollywood neo-Nazi. That's the best thing I can say about that. Oh, here's D. Ray McKesson. I got to read what D. Ray says. D. Ray McKesson, a prominent Black Lives Matter activist, likened the black identity extremist monitoring to the FBI's highly controversial domestic counterintelligence program known as COINTELPRO, which was used to target political groups and activists like the NAACP, Martin Luther King Jr., socialist and communist groups, and anti-war protesters. We knew that they were likely being watched. Well, it was a factor of being watched, D-Ray. It's not likely. They were. It's on record. Who has spoken out about being monitored by the U.S. government and FBI. This is a confirmation that the work of social justice continues to threaten those in power. My ass. If you ask me what's really going on, I don't know if this is going to give some validation to these Black Lives Matter shines. There's a distinct difference between the Black Panthers of yesteryear and these Black Panther shines of today, and even Black Lives Matter. Now, are these people being monitored? I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, of course, everybody's being monitored, of course. You know what I mean? But to me, in all honesty, I think these guys, they're being monitored because, you know, foreign agents like George Soros are funding them. You know what I mean? It's nothing. Don't take it personal, D-Ray. You're taking that Soros money. You know what I mean? Of course, you're going to be monitored. If you keep your nose clean, then you don't have nothing to worry about. See, back in the day, the 60s and 70s, they weren't keeping their nose clean, especially the Panthers. They started getting involved in drugs and this, that, and the third, and down they went. Y'all don't have You don't feed the streets. You don't feed the poor. You're nothing like them, to be perfectly honest. You know, I'm still of the belief that y'all are the agents. You know what I mean? Some government, there's so many government. You know, I mean, this is, like I said, this is government agency tracing government agents. You know what I mean? And it's crazy how this government works. But you shouldn't even put yourselves out there. There's no need. You can work within your own community and stop, you know what I mean, putting the onus on these police officers. We can if your goal is to lessen police brutality cases, then you lessen the crime in your neighborhood. You lessen the crime in your neighborhood, by default you lessen the police brutality cases. It's simple. It's chess, not checkers. You know what I mean? You stop the shootings in these neighborhoods. You stop the need for even police to get in these neighborhoods. You know what I mean? If you really want to do something, then like propose laws like, hey man, if we lower the crime by such and such percent in each of these neighborhoods, well, you got to lower the police by such and such percent. I mean, that's my goal. Like, no, this is not my goal. That's my idea. Like, why don't you just do that? It's as simple. Now y'all want to run up and down the streets, protest, and now you're gonna complain, oh, we're being monitored by the FBI. Well, good, because then they hope they expose how much a fraud you are, D-Ray. Anyway, this is Uncle Hotep. Peace.